How are you guys doing today? For those of you who don't know, my name is Jermaine. I am the owner of Clear and Strategic. It is a credit restoration as well as just finance. I do everything finance from budgeting, getting your affairs in order, business credit, and a few other things. A lot of people always ask me, well, what is the asset debt collector? What is that there for? Well, let me tell you, for 15 years, I've done debt collections. I've done it for over 15 years. I've been in the debt collection industry. I started as a legal verifier. So that's the first debt collection job that I've ever had as a legal verifier. What I did was I just basically skip traced anybody who came in our office. So this debt collection company that I work for was called Lake Valley Retrievals, the first debt collection company that I worked for. I started out as a legal verifier. So all I would do is accounts would come in the office. They had an in-house attorney and they would sue on a lot of accounts right off the bat. And so all my job was, as soon as accounts came in, I would skip trace, look and see if they own any property, if we can find a place of employment, if we can find any type of asset to attach to this person, then automatically the account was sent to our legal department. And that's how that debt collection office was ran. As accounts came in the office, the legal department was where all the money was made. I was just a legal verifier, just finding information. If I found it, I sent it to our legal department, that desk. They would get the account and, basically file suit. If they found out that the information was correct, they would file suit. A lot of people I have on my YouTube page, and if you haven't, subscribe. I have one of my most popular videos is what to do once you're served with the summons. And so that's what I started out doing with regards to that. Then I got a promotion to skip tracing. And at this job, basically, I was a skip tracer, but I was a collector as well. So basically, we would just skip trace accounts. These are accounts that would come across the desk, and they would come from the actual collections floor because they needed a number, they needed something with regards to that. And the collectors at this job didn't know how to skip trace. All they wanted to do, the collectors to do, was to make phone calls. And so we would skip trace the accounts. So we would skip trace the accounts. If we found a good number, something like that, we would kick it back to them. And then we had a couple of accounts on our own that we would actually call on. From there, I was actually promoted and I actually got to work in the legal department. So at this first collections job, the legal department was where the money was at, right? They had a judgment and a post-judgment desk. I worked on the post-judgment desk. And basically what that was is individuals who actually had a judgment already. So whether it was a default or they went inside a court and they lost, they owed money. And so I worked in the default judgment spot. So actually, yeah, this is so many years ago. This is the first job that I had. The default judgment. So these are people who didn't actually show up to court and actually had a judgment. Now, once you get a judgment on a consumer, what ends up happening is you get the judgment, but that doesn't necessarily mean you get the money, right? And so now we're skip tracing, trying to see if they have assets, trying to see what was going on with regards to that, or figuring out a way to attach or get the money from the people. That job ended up going under. And so I had to find the next job. The next job that I had was from a company called ARC. It's Absolute Resolutions Corporation. There I started out on a contingency desk, right? So at this place, it was completely different from the other debt collection job that I had. In this job, they had a contingency collections floor, they had a collections floor, and then they had a legal department. And in this job, I thought the legal department was great, but it wasn't. Contingency was cool, but you didn't make as much money because, and this is a good nugget for those of you who know, when you're vetting a company, a debt collection company, with regards to your account, what you want to do is see if they actually, and I keep looking this way because this is where the camera is, but they want to see, you want to see if they own the account or not, right? So if a debt collection company owns your account, then that makes a lot more sense with regards to the account. as far as getting a settlement, right? Because if they own the account, that means they bought the account in bulk, pennies on the dollar. And so when you're negotiating, if you find out that they owe the debt, you can get better settlements. If it's a contingent account with regards to your debt, and if you just coming in, if you have a question, throw it in the chat and I'll answer the question for you. That's the whole point of this, is to help you with your credit. So, but nevertheless, with a contingent account, that means that the debt collection company doesn't own the account outright. So they're collecting on a contingent basis with regards to your debt. And so what that means is, if you, let's say you had an account with Capital One, I always use Capital One as an example because a lot of people know Capital One. Let's say that account was sent to a debt collection company, but they didn't own it. They sent it to them to collect on their behalf. Well, let's say you had $1,000 account. Typically, the split is, if they collected the $1,000 from you as a consumer, 30% they get to retain as a debt collection company, and 70% they have to send to the debt collection agency, right? And so because of that, because their amount is so much smaller, when you're trying to get a settlement and it from a debt collection company and the debt, they don't own it, they're going to be a lot less likely to give you a settlement. And that's the main reason. So if you're coming in here, if you have a question with regards to credit or debt, throw it in the chat and I'll answer it for you. But nevertheless, so I worked on the contingency side with regards to this debt collection company, Absolute Resolutions Corporation. And I started out working there, worked my way up, ended up being a supervisor of that, of the actual contingent department. So like I stated, they had a debt owned collectors, and that's where the money was. But I didn't know that when I came into the business, when I started working this second debt collection job. And then they had a contingency floor where we're calling on accounts that the company doesn't actually owe. If you have a question about credit or debt, put it in the chat and I'll answer it. But nevertheless, so I worked on the contingent side. So it was harder, you know, like let's say I collected $20,000 on the month. The reality is I only got like 30, the company got credit for 30% of that. So make it a round number, $10,000 was collected, only got credit for $3,000 because $7,000 went back to the original creditor or the company that hired us to collect on their behalf. And so that department sort of kind of sucked. It was hard to hit commissions because, you know, you collect 20 grand, but you only really collected $6,000, right? And I remember I had to get a goal. I had to hit $10,000. And then after $10,000, I got 10% of whatever I collected, right? And so I worked there for a while. Then I wanted to be a supervisor. And the owner there, we're still friends till this day. We're really cool, but he didn't know me from Adam. So, and if you guys are just coming in, if you have a question, put it in the chat section. I'll answer it about credit or debt. But nevertheless, just going through my history of debt collections in the beginning, I wanted to be a supervisor. And I remember the owner, and I won't say his name. Well, his name's Mike. Mike at that time was like, he didn't know me. And he was just like, you know what? My boss said that, hey, he will be a good supervisor. And the owner was like, nah, I don't think he's proved himself as a collector. And he didn't want me to, you know, be a supervisor. He just didn't feel that I was able to do the job. And so what he said was he wanted me to collect on the debt owned side first, but it was in the legal department at this job. And the legal department sucked because collectors got the accounts first. And then when they couldn't get any money or whatever, then they would send it to the legal department. Completely different from the other collection job that I worked at, where collections was where the money was. The debt, the legal department was where all the money was. But in this one, it wasn't. So he said, go to the, not the debt owned side, but I went to the legal department. And he said, gave me a bunch of accounts, said, let's see how you collect on these accounts. And then we'll determine if you're going to be if you're good at collecting or not, right? So I was like, all right, cool. So I go to that spot, and within maybe four or 5 days, I'm collecting money. I'm doing really good. I stay in that department for about 2 months. I end up out collecting everybody there. And so then I become a supervisor. So I'm over about 25 people. as a supervisor, and I have a manager over me. And what ends up happening is, and what changed my trajectory with regards to debt collections in general is this. So as I'm working at this company, there's this new guy who's coming, this dude by the name of David, who we're really good friends still to this day. So David comes, and there's all this hoopla about this guy. It's like, this guy's a collector. He's like one of the best. He was coming from some other company, and he could collect the most amount of money than anybody else, right? They're saying like he's like the stud. And so he ends up coming, and at this time I'm just a supervisor, so I'm not really on the phones. I'm just managing the 27 people that we had on our contingent side. He comes in the debt owned side, right? And I remember he comes and he sits down, and in like 3 days, maybe 3 days pass. First day, no money. Second day, no money. Third day comes, this guy gets a pop. We call it a pop. He got like a $7,000 pop, right? They're like 7 grand, and they say it all out loud on the debt on sign. Anytime they collect money, if it's over like 5 grand, they'll make an announcement. David Barrett, uh, David Barrett gets a $7,000 pop, and so I'm a jokester, and I go, a blind squirrel finds a nut anytime. And he doesn't say anything. He's just sitting there. And then maybe another hour, he gets a $10,000 pop. And he sort of kind of looks at me and says, "Is that a blind squirrel?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, we see you. I see you. I see you." I'm like, "Hey, no, 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 no. I'm not doing anything with regards to it." And I was hating. Everybody was hating on him. The top collector in that department, he out collected him in 2 weeks. Next thing you know, he gets a $17,000 pop, all these collection accounts, and the top guy was averaging about 25 grand. This dude collected like 35 grand at that time span. And me still, I'm at the company for about a year now, and I'm a supervisor. And so, as time progressed, I'm joking with him. We end up being cool. I end up, thinking like, okay, whatever. So it was payday, and I think it was a break. Break was going on. If you have a question, put it in the chat section. But a break was going on about credit or debt, put it in the chat section. So break was going on, and I think we had just got paid, and everyone was getting their commission checks. And so, he's looking at his check, and I can't see it. He's sort of kind of in front of me. He's looking at it. He's like, "Man, I could have got another $1,500." And I said, $1,500, extra $1,500. He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Well, how much is your commission check?" This dude had a commission check of like $6,500. Me working on, I was the supervisor of 25 people on the contingent side. I averaged only like $3,000 a month. And I'm like, this dude's commission check's bigger than mine. And I was stressed out over there, right? Trying to get people to hit numbers and all that. And I got, commissions based on what the performance of everyone else done. This dude's commission check was $6,500. He was saying he could have got 7 grand. And immediately I'm working at this company. I never, people don't discuss money. So I asked, I go, "David, how the hell did you get that? I mean, how much did you collect that month?" And I think he collected like 40 grand or something. And he's like, "Yeah, this is my commission check." And I was like, "What?" Immediately, I was like, "You know what? I don't want to be the supervisor. Here I am being this over all these people. I'm not seeing that kind of money. I want to be on the debt owned side." So I remember going back into the owner's office. Well, my supervisor, my boss, actually, the manager, I told him, Greg was his name. I was like, "Hey, Greg, man, I don't want to do this no more. I want commission check like him. I want to go over to the debt on side." And he basically told me, he was like, "Hey, man, I know you want this money. The reality is this. He's one of the best collectors. Chances are you're not going to see that kind of money. The average bonus over there on that side is about a $500 bonus. And, me knowing you and how you collected, this is what it is." And so, of course, anybody knows me, you challenge me, it's going to be a problem. So I said, "You know what? Bunk that. I want to go over there." So he talks to the boss. And of course, people in management, they didn't want me stepping down. But basically, they told him like, "Hey, you go over there. If you tank and you don't do any good, too bad, so sad. You're going to have to live with it. You can't come back to management." And I was like, "I don't care." I saw the $5,000 commission check he got, and knowing me and who I was like, "Do me one favor." I asked the manager, "Sit me next to that guy. I need to sit next to David. because that way I can learn from him, and I guarantee you I'll collect just as much, if not more. And so they were like, all right, hey, everybody says this, go ahead, go. I go sit next to him. And one of the things that I noticed with this dude, and he's a debt collector, and we're still friends till this day. Matter of fact, later as I get into my story on my debt collection journey, for those of you who still want to hear it, I'll tell you that. Okay, wait, we got our first question, so I'm going to put a pause. If you send a collector a cease and desist via certified, and the collector calls you, how many days must pass for them to be in violation? So if you send a cease and desist letter to a debt collection company, as soon as they get it, they're supposed to actually stop. Hold on real quick. My phone, my camera's about to die, so I'm going to switch the battery real quick, so I'll be right back with you guys. Hold on. Matter of fact, I could do it from right here. So I'm going to just switch it, and then it's going to go off, and I'll be right back. So I'm coming. Don't worry. I'm still here. I'm just switching the battery, and I got a Canon M50. I didn't pay for the what's the name thing, so when I'm on here, I have to change. Regardless, so here I am. I'm back. I am back. So, Lady Johnson, I'm hoping you're the one still here. So, if you send a cease and desist letter to a debt collection company, as soon as they get that cease and desist letter, they're no longer supposed to contact you. So, if you have proof that they got the letter, which you sent certified, hopefully you kept that slip, the certified mail slip, so that way you can verify that, you can actually get an attorney and sue them. If they call you after that time span, that they get the letter and someone makes a call, automatically that's a lawsuit. You can make a complaint with the CFPB, but in your area, look up lawyers that specialize in collection lawsuits. And if you can prove that they called you from that time that you sent that letter, and they got it from that time, so they can't call you anymore. As soon as they get that documentation, they get it, they go right on the floor. They're supposed to shut it all down. I know I used to own debt collection company. So if you have any other questions, throw it in there. And let me go on with my story until I see another question. But that's what it is. If you have something else, that's what it is. If you cease and desist letter, if they get it, that's why I recommend faxing it, because they'll get it. But even with the certified letter, if they get that letter and they call you after that time span, it's a lawsuit. You can get paid. So look into that. And then obviously you can make a complaint, including emails and texts. So that's the thing. So the law is a little different, because beforehand, now, understand, once you send a cease and desist letter to a company, if they plan on suing you or going further with regards to that, or selling your debt or something like that, by law, they're supposed to let you know that. If they're still contacting you to pay the debt, that's the key thing. If they're contacting you to pay the debt, then they're in violation. Email or text message, same thing. They're supposed to stop it all. But as you know, the laws are a little gray area with regards to emails and texting and so forth, because there hasn't been solid. Majority of the cease and desist letter speaks on the actual phone calls. But if I were you, contact a lawyer in your area, and you can actually get documentation with regards to that, and tell them, like, hey, they'll do a free consultation. I'm going to charge you for the consultation. And when you talk to them, they'll be able to tell if you can get it. If you can't do the lawyer and you're not trying to sue them, just get the proof of it and then contact the CFPB, right? Have all your proof with regards to it. And a lot of times, because of the violation, if you do owe a debt, they would have to close the account out by being in violation. That's the second thing. So the CFPB, make a complaint, and it's going to be against, I'm guessing, a debt collection company. And you show that, hey, I mailed this letter. You have a copy of the letter you mailed. You have a copy of the actual certified information. You can say, and I know it was delivered on this day. And typically you want to give them about 24 hours, because it could have been delivered, but then, it's on the receptionist's desk and it hasn't got in. So wait about 24 hours, as well as let them know that you sent it. That'll help you on your behalf with regards to it. And then if they still continue to email you or text you about the debt itself, and they're not telling you that they sold the debt, or they're not telling you that they're planning on suing you with regards to the debt, then you have a lawsuit. So you can contact an attorney or go through the CFPB for a complaint to try and get alleviated of the debt itself in general. And you won't even have to pay it. But okay, so those of you who are coming in, if you have any other questions, throw it in the chat and I'll actually answer it for you. But so now, thank you. No problem, Lady Johnson. Any other questions? Just throw it in there and I'll answer them. I'm going to be on here for about an hour. Tell your friends, tell everybody with regards to that. So after working on the contingent side and being a supervisor and wanting to go to the debt owned side to make collection calls, finally I'm able to go and I was able to sit next to this guy, David Barry, who's still a great friend of mine. And I'll explain to you later as we go through my life with regards to stuff. But so I got to sit next to him and I learned from him. And you know what I learned from him? Yeah, he was really, slick with his words and really slick with how he would say stuff and so forth. And I noticed that, and that's every debt collector. But the thing that you could not take away from this guy is this. If this is the phone that you call in, this is the actual dial pad, this dude had the phone on his ear 24/7, 8 hours when he was in there. If he wasn't on a break, he was on the phone call, making a call, talking to somebody and doing something. And what I noticed at the debt collection company in general, and even myself at that time span, is sometimes we make a call, we'll make jokes, we're talking, we're doing this. Every time I would look at this dude, he was on the phone making calls. And then he had scripts, right? He had a script of what he would actually say and his rebuttals. And he went in there and this dude meant business. Now, at the time, I didn't know. But as I got to know him, I realized, okay, he was financially hurting. The last job that he had in collections, he got into it with the owner. He ended up having to leave. Most debt collection jobs are a revolving door. You probably have like 3 or 4 main collectors, and everybody else, because it's a high churn, very stressful job, are in and out. But so I'm sitting next to this dude and I learned the stuff. And guess what? Me and him are competing. Now he beat me. I worked there for about another 2 years under him, making large commission checks, learning everything that he learned. He was just a little more better because that was my second collections job, but really my first one on the phone, actually dialing people. And he was just better than me in general. But I learned from him and we would go back and forth and we compete and so forth with regards to that. But see, this is where I change. So as we're working, average, so basically my commission structure worked like this. You had 2 different structures, and he had a better structure, but he wouldn't tell me until later. But you collect $10,000, right? And that goes all to the house. You had a base pay. I think I was making at that time span like $13 an hour, and I think minimum wage was like $7. So I was happy with that. But he was making probably like $17, $18 an hour. But nevertheless, you had to collect 10 grand. After 10 grand, which covered my base pay 3 times over, everything after 10 grand, I would get 10% of. So if I collected $1,000, $11,000, I would get a $100 commission check, right? And so everything over that. So I would average about 30 grand. So for about 4 or 5 months, I was averaging about 25 to 30 grand. So you take that off, that's 15,000, 10% of that is $1,500. $1,500 commission check was way more than I was making before on top of my base pay. But I remember one month, same dude, I'm like, what the hell? We collected around the same amount, but his commission check was a lot higher than mine. And I'm like, dude, what's going on, bro? Why are you making more? He said, oh, you have an option to do this, but he switched his. So instead of collecting 10 grand and getting 10%, he had to collect $14,000 and he got 20% of everything he collected after that. So when we got in certain numbers, he would make double the amount. So I immediately asked my boss, hey, I want to switch to that. He says, if you switch to that, you can't come back down. And things was tough, but still, I averaged 30 grand collecting for him. And so to do the numbers, now that I think about it, 30 grand, 14,000, what was that? 14,000. This was so long ago. 30 grand. So I had a $16,000 is what my commission was based on. So you times that by 20%. And so you had $3,200 commission bonus check, right? So I collect 30 grand. I got my base pay plus an extra about $3,200. And I average about $3,000 to $5,000 commission check when I worked in debt collections with him. And so you make $3,200 plus my base pay. So I was averaging about $4,000 to $5,000. Sometimes, I hire to 10 grand, but I average probably about about $6,000, $6 to $7,000 a month. And he would average about that, a little more, like $1,000 or more higher. And so we did that for about a year and a half. And my mind, the way I am, and I didn't even know, but I've always had that entrepreneur thought process. And I'm like, you know what? We're collecting 30 grand for this company and walking away with about 4 grand. What if we collected the 30 grand ourselves and kept it? You know what I mean? Why not start a business? And so I remember talking to my boy David. And, at the time he had a family, he was married, he had a 401k plan, he had all the health benefits and so forth with regards to the company. And me, I had a daughter, but I was single and out running the streets and doing what I did at that time span. And so it was scary for him. And for me, it wasn't. And so, you know what? He was like, yeah, how are we going to start the business? How are you going to start a business? How are you going to do all of that? So I remember scouring through and I found a guy who had a debt collection company who would let you work from home. And basically he gave you 30% of everything collected from $1. And so I talked to the guy, I got him on the phone, it was legit. I went and did an interview with him and I'm just like, dang, he had the accounts and so forth. I'm like, bro, if I collected the 30 grand at 30%, right? That's 369, that's $9,000 off that same amount of money where I made half of that amount. And when I negotiated with him, I was like, I get you're saying 30%, but what about 50%? I'm a great collector, let me get 50%. And he's like, you know what? If you can come in and you can collect, 15,000 or more, I'll give you 50%. If you could do that, because I guess collectors he had averaged about 5-6 grand. So I was like, okay, cool. So I go back to work and I tell David about the guy. I'm like, hey man, he's saying that he'll give us 50% of every dollar we collect. And I looked at some of the debt he has. It's pretty legit, bro. I think it should work out. And he's like, he didn't really want to go. David, and I get it. He had his family. And so I didn't quit the job that we were working at, but I went and started working for this guy part-time. And I'll never forget, I got this lady on the phone and she had a $17,000 balance of a credit card. And she was trying to get a settlement. And I was just like, I knew if I could collect the 15 grand, I'm gonna get 50% of that. So that's $750, $7,500. So 17 grand. And she was just like, she wanted to pay and so forth, take care of it, but she didn't have $17,000. And so I just said, you know what, if you pay $15,000, we could close the account out just to see where she was at. This lady had the 15 grand and paid me a check by phone right there. And there goes $7,500 made. One payment, $7,500, right? And I couldn't believe it. And that was early on in the month. I ended up collecting probably like around 30 grand like I did at the other company. And $15,000 was mine. And I could not believe it. And so I got the money. And I remember thinking like, should I tell my boy? And I was like, he has a family and so forth. We get back, I tell him, he asked me, hey, what's going on with that job? I said, bro, I made 15 grand last month. He was like, are you kidding me? I said, yes, 15 grand. And he's like, what? Work with that guy? He's like, all right, man, I'll start doing it part-time too. He went over there and even killed it more. And so moral of the story was, we're working for this guy. And my thought process was, I'm going to make this money and I want to start my own company. I want to start my own credit repair company. I mean, not credit repair, debt collection company, right? And he was like, he's working for this guy, like, hey, if he could collect this amount of money, I remember he collected like 50 grand for the guy and made $25,000. We just couldn't believe it. We were just making money. I was averaging 10 grand or more working for this guy and not even really working hard, but I'm saving my money with regards to starting. And my mind state, I still had in the back of my mind, I want to start my own business. With my boy, he's like, he making this kind of money is cool. The dude ends up going out of business due to whatever. I think he had like a divorce and his wife was getting money. And so the guy we were working for, it didn't work out. But now, mind you, we're still working at the main company because he's keeping it to keep his the benefits and so forth that he had from the job, and I did too. And so then we're like, you know what? I'm like, bro, I'm about to put my 2-week notice in. I saved up a nice amount of money. I'm gonna start my own company. And David was like, yep, same thing. My friend, he's like, he's gonna do the same thing. And so I said, I'm gonna put my 2-week notice in. I'm gonna probably let them know in a couple days, and I'm gonna put my 2-week notice in at the job and go. This dude undercuts me and tells him that day he's quitting. He puts in his 2-week notice. And so we're the two best collectors at this company at ARC. And so he does that. And so I'm like, dang, why did you do that? Now I have to tell him. So I end up going in there and saying, hey, he put his 2-week notice in, I'm gonna put mine in. And the owner of the company is going crazy, right? He's all upset because he's in his head, he's like, these guys must be starting their own company. And so we end up quitting or whatnot. And I remember the owner, Mike, which we're cool now. He was all like, thinking that we're starting our own company, we're going to take employees away and all this stuff. So he sends us like a cease and desist letter, and he says that we signed a contract, a non-compete contract with him. And thank God, when I started working at that company, I was just, I worked on the contingency side. I didn't sign that. And nor did David. David didn't. He purposely didn't sign it. And so we asked the owner, we're like, he was trying to shut us down. We're like, and we didn't even go to business together. I started J. McNeil and Associates. He started Barrett and Associates as debt collection companies. And so, and any of you guys are in here, if you have a question about credit or debt, you can put it in the chat and I'll answer it just to help you out. But I'm just giving my story because I don't have anything else to talk about. Nobody else has asked any questions. And I know this is probably interesting to a lot of you guys because we all deal with debt and you wonder what happens on that side. But nevertheless, he does that. And so then Dave, at the time, I didn't know that I didn't sign this. I believed him. So I started panicking. And then David, my friend, he's like, I never signed that. I know I purposely didn't sign it because of the last job he had before he came to that one. He didn't want none of those issues. So what ended up happening is he challenged Mike, who was the owner at the time. He said, send the proof that I signed that. I never signed anything like that. And I said, yeah. And then David, I was like, well, what did you do, Dave? He's like, same thing. Send me the proof. I never signed anything. Ask him. So we asked, come to find out he didn't have that documentation with regards to anything to prove. Started our own credit. We started our own debt collection agencies. I keep saying credit because that's what I do now. But nevertheless, so I started J. McNeil and Associates. He started Barrett and Associates. Now, the difference between the both of us is he had a family and he was more business oriented. Me at the time, people always say, you had 2 debt collection companies. What happened? Well, my first one, this is what happened. So we started. We ended up finding a person to buy debt from. My first portfolio, I spent $3,900 for. I got close to about $500,000 worth of debt. And the guy who sold it to me told me, hey, it's going to be tough to collect on this, but hey, here's $500,000. I paid $3,900 for it. In that first month on that debt, I spent $3,900. I collected probably like 22 grand on that portfolio. And in the first month, I ended up collecting close to about 80 grand on that portfolio. But in that first month, I collected that. Here we go. I have okay credit right now, but I have like 6 cards maxed out because they all decreased my limits, and I'm about to be in trouble with these payments. I can get a personal loan to pay it off. Okay, so that's the thing. I'm guessing you. Who is this? Live and Riches. I'm guessing Live and Riches about 20. 25,000. Okay. I'm guessing that you may have had like American Express credit cards or so forth. What happens, and this is why I'm not a big advocate of having a bunch of personal credit. I always say if you get lines of credit, and don't get me wrong, you can get a bunch, but as soon as you use it, and then that next month, if you don't pay it down to like 30% utilization, or if you max it out and you don't pay it down, then all the companies get scared and they'll lower your interest, your thing. So let's say you had a $25,000 limit, and 1 month you used 10 grand, and then when it came time to pay, let's say you paid only $1,000, a notification will come and they'll lower your limit, which will hurt you with regards to the debt. But in order to pay those off, a personal loan is something you could possibly do. If it's 25 grand, yes, you can get a personal loan. The only problem is the interest rate on that personal loan, right? It has to make more sense with regards to the credit card. Most personal loans, you are going to get a better interest rate than a credit card. Credit cards, they're going to be higher, 25%. Personal loan, you may get away with like 10, 15%. So if the numbers make sense, then yeah, do that. Pay off the card. Now you gotta be disciplined with that card, because if you play it off with the personal loan, you don't shut off that card, and then you end up doing it again, it can mess you all up. So yeah, get a personal loan. You could possibly do that, but the numbers have to make sense with regards to that. 25 grand. I know the payment's probably 25 grand. Your payment's probably $700, $800, $900, depending on the interest rate on that card. So it can't hurt you. But yeah, that's what you can possibly do with regards to that. Get a personal loan. If the interest rate's lower on a personal loan, then you get that personal loan, pay it. And guess what will happen with your credit? With the personal loan, there is no utilization, right? So if you get that personal loan of 25 grand and you're smart and you pay the credit card off, now you got that credit, you got that revolving credit card, you're going to have $25,000 of available credit. Your score is going to go up because of that. And then as long as with that personal loan, you make the monthly payments on there, you'll be fine. Just make sure you don't go late or anything along those lines. You pay those payments, you're going to save yourself a lot of money, and that'll help out. You're awesome. Thank you. Any other options like moving the debt somewhere else? Business credit. So that's the key. So one of the things I always teach people is clean up your personal credit. Once your personal, you get in the 750s or whatnot, get some credit lines. That's cool. Use your credit cards like debit cards. Only spend what you have in the bank. I know you have a cell phone bill. I know you have Netflix. You probably have an internet bill, all that. Use the credit card to pay those things. And then because you already have your budget, and pay it to zero balance. But the next thing I always tell people is once that's set up, then you want to switch to business credit. And in the beginning, start an LLC, even if it's a sole prop. Like for my wife, she started her company and it was a sole prop. And I'm looking through my credit cards to show you the credit cards that I end up getting. Express Business, where's my other one? Oh, here it is. Okay, so what I did was I used my personal credit as a guarantee, right, with regards to the business credit. So I got 2 credit cards. I got the American Express Business Plus and the Business Cash on the same day. 10 grand each, 0% interest, right? For the first year. So that's a $20,000 loan with no interest, which, most people try and get loans. You're going to pay interest right off the bat. With credit cards, it's the best thing. And so by doing that, on the business side, there is no utilization. There's no credit utilization, right? Because most people on the business side, you're maxing out your credit cards to try and grow your business. And that's where you hide all the debt, because it's not going to show on my personal side, right? The only way, when I give a personal guarantee, which means that I give my social, they leverage my personal credit for that credit with regards to getting these credit cards. The only way it hurts me is if I don't pay it. If I max these cards out and then don't pay it and not paying the minimum payment and so forth, then yeah. Then if I default and it goes to collections, then they put it on my personal credit. That's why they ask for a personal guarantee. But if you're doing it right, the business side is the side you're over leveraging your stuff with. But if you're over leveraging and hopefully you're doing it responsible and you're trying to grow your business, right? And that's the key with regards to stuff. So make sure that that's what you're doing. But yeah, get up the personal credit, then go the business side. So then you start the personal guarantee, then you leverage. Then I recommend getting the net 30 accounts and the net 60 accounts, right? Because with a business, what's the biggest problem? Capital, right? And so getting those net 30 accounts don't really work because you might be getting stuff you got to buy, like paper, or buy certain stuff that you don't necessarily need for the business, and capital is the issue. So you fix your personal credit up, then you leverage with American Express. Is probably one of the bigger companies that you can do that with. And then you take that money, you got interest free for a year. If you do max it out, let's say you use 10 grand on that card, hopefully you're using that to either advertise for your business or something with regards to scaling and growing your business. And a good book to read, which helped me with my credit repair company, is this one, Get Scalable. I read a lot of books, but Get Scalable, this by Ryan Deasy. This is a great one. It'll teach you that, but you got to have capital. And so you use the credit cards to leverage that, and then you can start doing what you need to do on that business side of things with regards to doing that. And so, yeah, you can hide everything. If Live in Riches, if you're still in here, you can hide everything on the business side with regards to stuff. So that's that. Give me a thumbs up if you guys are liking the information I'm giving with regards to that. So back to my story. And if you guys come in here, if you have a question, put it in the comment section. I'll answer it for you. And after the video too. So once it's done, and those of you who watch this live, go check out. If you have a question about credit debt, put it down in the comment section. If you notice on all my videos, I do a lot of answering the questions. Every time somebody asks a question about credit debt, I answer. So we started our own businesses, right? So I got J. McNeil and Associates. He has Barrett and Associates. I'm making really, really good money. The problem is, as I'm making the money, I'm not investing it really. I'm thinking, you know what? I paid $3,900 for that first portfolio. Why does it matter? I'll just buy another portfolio from this guy, which I did, a couple other portfolios from him. And I'm not getting any other relationships or nothing. I'm not building. David, my buddy, he's building relationships. He's getting out there. He's making lots of money, but he's also doing other stuff with regards to he's doing a lot of other stuff with regards to networking and doing all that. In my head, because I don't understand business in its fullity, and I'm not even talking to him about it. We're just talking about the money we're collecting and money we have. So the guy we were buying accounts from, he ends up getting out of the business. So now I need to buy accounts. I don't have anybody to buy accounts from. And my expenses done went higher because now I'm making a lot more money, and now I got to pay all these expenses. With my friend David, he kept his expenses low, and he went out getting other contacts. And so I'm like, hey, who are you buying accounts from? He's like, I have a guy, but he, and I could vouch for you. The problem is you got to have licensing, you got to have insurance for your company, all that. I didn't do that. So my J. McNeil and Associates ended up going under. And guess what? I ended up going to work for my buddy, David. And it was all cool. I worked for him for about a year. And no, I worked for him about 2 years. And then about that time span, I bought half of his company, obviously, because now I'm understanding. And so we're partnered in his company. About a year later, I end up buying it from him. So if you ever get an email from me, it says J. McNeil from Barrett and Associates, BarrettRecovery.com. The reason why it says that is, and that's the same email I use for my credit repair company as well. I just kept the same email, through GoDaddy. I paid through them, and I have so many connections, so much stuff. So many people have that email. I just kept it over that time span. So there comes the second debt collection company. So I take over my friends, Barrett and Associates. My friend David, he ends up going into debt sales, which he's making till this day money hand over fist. So he's like a broker, and he's selling debt to debt collection companies, right? And so that's where he makes a lot of money. He can mark up stuff, do whatever. He's making money that way. And so I'm doing debt collections. I've had his company for years and years and years. Once the pandemic hit, and for a long time, I always feel guilty about debt collections because you have to insinuate you're going to sue people. You have to do certain stuff. A lot of times I would get people who are on the phone, they're crying, they can't really afford to pay. And as a debt collector, you got to have a tough skin. It's like, hey, I just need you to pay, right? If they don't pay, you don't eat. And so, but during the pandemic, and this is before PPP money and loans and all that stuff was coming out, I just didn't feel comfortable calling people to pay a debt when I knew they couldn't pay their rent. And this gave me a transition. So I started as a debt collector, the YouTube page that I have here. And I've been doing it for about 2-3 years now. 2020, 2021, and we're in 2025. So about 4 years I've had this YouTube channel. And as I'm just giving information about credit, and I've known about credit, I've helped people clean up their credit. I've cleaned my credit up on a personal basis before. And so I'm helping people clean up their credit, doing all of that. And once the pandemic happened, and I'm doing it on a personal side, but people kept asking me on YouTube, hey, do you have a credit business? Hey, can you clean my credit up for me? Can you help me with my credit? And so eventually I started a business, and it's called Clear and Strategic. And I've been helping people clean up their credit and do their credit forever with regards to that. Now, down in the description, there's some links with regards to my private community, helping you out with regards to that. Those of you who do sign up this month, you can get 2 free coaching sessions with me. So I get on the phone with you. It's a Zoom call. Look at a copy of your credit report, figure out what your goals are. And the goal is to get everybody at a 740 FICO score, but depending on what's going on, because there is no one cookie cutter. When sometimes people come with these debt collection letters and it's a cookie cutter one that's saying, oh, okay, yeah, do this and that and that, we can get you, fixed or whatever the circumstance is. Always tell people there's no one way, one cookie cutter way. So getting that one-on-one call with me is going to set a tailored strategy. That's why it's Clear and Strategic. That's the name of my company with regards to helping you get your stuff done. And guess what? This month, it's only $39 a month. $39. I guarantee you next month I am going to up the price. But if you do get it and it's in the calendar month of January and you decide to start with it, do that. But when you click the link, watch the video. Watch the video. Check out the video and it'll give you more information with regards to that. Okay, we're about 47 minutes in there. That's my story with regards to debt collections in general. Giving you guys that information with regards to that. And so that's just the situation concerning that. If you have any questions about credit or debt, put it down in the comment section. I promise I'll answer those questions. Thank you, everyone who came and joined. I'm going to start doing more lives to help you guys out with regards to that. Subscribe. You want to get information with regards to credit and debt, subscribe. We'll do that. I'll probably go live again tomorrow concerning that. And then on my later today, I'm doing a webinar. And about, 12 now on the West Coast at 5:30 Pacific Standard Time. I am doing a live webinar to teach you how to write a dispute letter that actually works. So if you get this and you get there, hopefully you'll see this at that time span. You can go to that, and it's absolutely for free to help you guys out on your credit journey. Thank you. Oh, so someone came in. If you have a question about credit or debt, put it down in the comment section. I've had a couple people come in and do that. I'm answering questions to help you on your credit journey. I don't care what the question is, ask it, and I'll be able to help you out with regards to that. Do you have a question? I was just about to hop off. Okay, so I'll hop off with regards to that. Thank you, guys. Be great.